Recorded on the. All right, welcome everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Awakening Women Collective podcast. I am your host, Dr. Helen Orombi, and today we have a very special guest, Coach Darcel. Let me tell you a little bit about Darcel and then we'll go from there. All right, so Darcel is a mother, a healer, a guide whose life was forever changed by her son's journey with autism. And what began as a search to protect her from judgment became a profound awakening of her own intuition, presence, and power. And so in this episode, Desel is going to share some raw, beautiful evolution from fear and fixing energy to connection and co-regulation. So through moments of breakdowns and breakthroughs, she discovered that healing doesn't always come through words, right? It comes through resonance, listening, and letting go. And so if you've ever felt like you had to hold everything together, this conversation is your reminder that wholeness lives in the pause and in the breath and in the brave acts of coming home to yourself. So, welcome everybody. Welcome, Darcel. So, Darcel, could you maybe introduce yourself? Maybe I missed something. Introduce yourself and then tell us what's most current for you in your life right now.
Oh my goodness. First of all, thank you, Dr. Helen, for having me here today. And what a beautiful, beautiful introduction. I just love that.
Mm, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Well, I'm Coach Darcel. So
Mm,
glad to be here today. And yes, I work with parents, moms particularly, of parents of children with autism to help them shift from fixing their child to embracing the uniqueness so
mm,
they both can thrive,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And just to give you a little idea of how things are, what my life is like today, as you asked. Well, right now I would say that I live in much more of a state of peace and well-being
Mm,
by living in the moment.
mm,
Like, I wake up in the morning, I go sit on my patio with a cup of tea or mushroom coffee, maybe.
mm,
Meditate and sit back and listen to the birds chirp.
mm,
And yeah, I'm just in the moment.
mm,
Sometimes I might even go and pull up some weeds in my garden if I get the notion.
mm. Yes.
Or the joy that I'm getting, when I, realize, wow, in my coaching business right now. Imagine the impact I'm having on so many women and mothers who've been just like me in their journey
Mm,
along the way with
mm,
some of the challenges but there's just so ripe for their transformation into to moving into their highest potential
mm,
and at the same time helping their child to achieve and move into theirs.
mm. Wow.
Yeah, love
That's
it
just
so
so
much.
beautiful, right? Like just hearing you describe what your life is right now, you
Mhm,
feel so grounded. You feel
mhm.
like you're in your joy, you're living your own purpose. That's so, so, so beautiful.
But you know what? I also think of my son.
Mm,
Yeah, there's that time when I may be very nervous because he's in this point now where he's moving into his own way of being his life. He's 26 years old and he's going to be making some very adult decisions about how he's going to live, how he's, what he's going to be doing and all of that. He's right there.
mm,
And yeah, man, I may be a little bit nervous, but at the same time, I take a few deep breaths
mm,
and make that shift. And you know what? I send them off, realizing that, hey, we've set up together we've set up some structures to help him in his safety and well-being. So when he goes out into this world and he will fall, yes, he will.
Mm.
But yeah, he will get back up, brush himself off, and he knows he could come home, all right, and be embraced by a community of people that love him that he was very instrumental in building,
Mm. Wow.
and then go back out again.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that you shared that, right? Because it's not all rainbows and butterflies.
Oh, yeah.
It's not that. Like you're being very, very real.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
it's grounded, but there's been some hard stuff, right? You
Yeah.
guys have walked some difficult paths to get to where you are. And I want to acknowledge the amount of work that the two of you well, the family, right, has done.
Mhm.
So, could you take us back to what life was before motherhood and what it felt like stepping into motherhood when you
Yeah.
did?
Okay. Well, let's go back to college. And I was like, I got into engineering.
Mhm.
Why? Oh, Lord knows. I didn't know anything about engineering. I just knew that you make money and you could become very successful. So, hey, why
You're not.
not?
Yeah.
But I got into engineering, and many of you know that it's a very structured, male-dominated field with the male model of setting standards, of goal setting, of strategizing, and achieving a goal or a service at the end,
Mhm.
you know, based on outside standards of living, whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just never felt at home in
Mm.
that place. I never felt comfortable. I felt like a fish out of water.
Mm.
I did that for many years, and it just never felt home, you know.
Yeah.
But thank goodness, along the way, I started to, you know, become attracted to energy wellness,
Mm.
like meditations, like Reiki. And Reiki has involves, you know, a modality, a healing modality that involves um, using my hands as instruments to allow the energetic field of flow,
Mhm.
the universal energetic flow, to
Mm.
engage in other people's energy fields
Yeah.
so that I can help unlock and ignite those energies that are already within them.
Mm. Wow. Wow. Okay, that's a big leap from
Yeah,
engineering
yeah,
to this. What precipitated that leap? Because you went from one spectrum to the next, right? How
yeah.
come?
Well, because I started with meditation,
Mhm.
and thank God my mother was a meditator, and she taught me, and I
Really?
just knew, yeah. And I thought, wow, there's something to this. It just really opened me up to my intuition,
Mm.
intuitive energies. And
Mm.
so then I became more, and I went studied yoga, and I studied um, energy sound wellness.
Mm.
And of course, energy sound wellness is also using sound to help people unlock those energetic frequencies that are healing and vibrant and all that are within them already. So I just love energy wellness. It's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so from engineering to
Uh-huh.
energy wellness. Now take us back to um what it felt like stepping into motherhood.
Yes. Well, yeah, because as I said, it is engineering. I was just in survival mode, day by day. But then all of a sudden I stepped into motherhood, but
Mm.
first marriage.
Right.
And here it is, marriage, motherhood. I had the perfect life in my mind. I mean, you can imagine. You know how it is. You haven't ever, you had a dream for so long that you thought would never happen after a certain point. I mean, I was 43. And I thought, well, all my eggs are dried up, I would never happen. And then all of a sudden, my goodness, I was a mom.
Mm.
And 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 I had, like I said, it was a fairy tale come true. And have you ever had a situation where all of a sudden the dream got uprooted and poof, just like that?
Mm. So the bubble busted. What
Yeah.
happened?
Let me tell you a little story. My son was about 2 years old, and I had him in my arms, it dressed up in his Sunday best, and we were going into a church, and I was going to show him off.
Of course you were.
Yes, I was. Oh my goodness. And so I got to the door and opened it and swung it wide open. And I saw my friends over at the far side of the room. They came running over to me
Mm.
and my son.
Mm.
And in their excitement, one of them reached out to pick him up. And he took his hands and he swiped her hard, her arm as hard as he could.
Ooh.
Well, my friends, all of them, recoiled, turned right around, and went right back where they came.
Whoa.
I was devastated. I was like, wait a minute. Don't you know this is only a child? He didn't mean anything. He didn't mean anything by that. Come on. Like, how could you do this? This is my son. And the thing about it was it kept happening over and over and over again,
What kept happening?
where he became overstimulated. He was stimming, and I didn't know that he was overstimulated because his nervous system, because of autism.
Mhm.
But I didn't know that. I didn't even know he had autism.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
all I know was my beloved son, who was a good kid, was being labeled as bad.
Mm. Mm. So for people who don't know what stemming is, can you share what that is?
That's, when your nervous system is triggered into a state of overwhelm.
Yeah.
What they say, fight or flight,
Yeah.
overwhelm.
Yeah. Yeah. So how is it different from a kid who has autism and a kid who doesn't?
Well, a lot of kids who, don't have that sensitive nervous system, they, they can just, they just love when people give them attention, or they just goo goo gaga. But my son was just like, this was just too much. And
Oh.
so he might go into frailing, their hands. They might go into spinning around. The stimming can show up in different ways. They might go tap on the table. They might do, and he stims to this day,
Yeah.
of tapping on the table 3 times every few minutes.
Yeah.
That's part of his stimming,
And so when
to
he does
help.
that, is that
It helps.
regulating him?
It helps to regulate.
Got it.
Helps to regulate them and bring their system back to ground
Hmm.
and rest in a calm mode. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So you were saying this kept happening. Tell us more. Like what was happening for him at school? What was going on for him?
Well,
And for you.
yeah, the teacher began to really notice because he would be spinning around in school and running around and just, phew. And so the teacher just suggested, she said, well, why don't you get him tested? And I did,
Right
and
away?
Yeah, kind of. Well, I said, okay. So I did.
Mhm.
And they told me in the developmental test that this child had pervasive developmental delay, which is now considered on the autism spectrum, but 26 years ago it was, that. And they told me to get him tested for autism.
Okay.
I was devastated.
Mhm.
I was in shock. Life is hard enough, and now this, are you kidding me?
Mhm.
No, 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 not my son. He can't have autism. Oh no. And if he does, well, I'll fix him. I'll fix him. I'll fix it out of him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, is there any particular reason why there was that amount of resistance, right? Like, do you have a history?
Oh my
Why
goodness.
would you want to fix? Like, tell me more about that.
Yes, there was. And you would think that, as a parent, I would say, okay, so he has autism. Let's go help him so he can get the resources and everything to help him to self-regulate, right? Well, that wasn't going on in my mind. No, I didn't want him to be labeled. I didn't want him to be thought of with autism. I just didn't want that to happen. You see, it kind of reminded me of myself. And it really triggered something within me. You see, I was one of those kids, and I still am. One of those people that you might be talking to me, and I might be engaging and looking at you. And all of a sudden, after a while, somebody might say, is she all there? Hello? I've been labeled a space cadet. I've been labeled spacey and, slow. But I began to really realize that this was my own unique way of feeling you out. It was my way of feeling and the resonance or whatever that I was engaging with that individual beyond the words. Okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it at that time. And I, didn't know it for a long, long time. I just said, okay, they say I'm slow, I must be slow. But I didn't want that label. I didn't want that for my son.
Mm.
So I was going to do everything to shield him and protect him from being labeled
Yeah.
slow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was coming from a place of love. You had experienced some painful moments where you were labeled and you didn't want that for your son.
Right.
Mm.
But at
What
what
did you do?
cost?
What did you do?
Yeah, what cost? What cost? That great skill was my skill of intuition
Mm.
that I squashed for years and years until I started all of a sudden meditating,
Mm.
all of a sudden Reiki, all of a sudden all of these things started to um, fuel and ignite that intuitive side and that creativity that was in me that wanted to express, but
Yeah.
I didn't allow it until, yeah.
Well, it wasn't expressing in a regular way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you thought there was something going on, but you were just as unique as your son.
Oh. Absolutely. But guess what?
Yeah.
We all are.
Yep, that's something you always say, right? We all
The
are.
truth is, we're all neurodiverse. It's just that these kids with autism, so many of us, like myself, have learned to conform so that we wouldn't be called out for it. Well, these kids with autism, they can't conform, so many of them. Their system is so overloaded, if they try to mask it, it could actually damage their system.
Mm, mm,
But we have, so many of us have filters that have allowed us to dumb down and numb ourselves
yeah, yeah,
to that, which is really portals
yeah,
to our greatness, really.
yeah, yeah. So you were sharing some of the ways you were sharing about wanting to fix your son. How were you doing that?
Oh my goodness. Day in and day out, he would show up, and he would might be stimming, as I mentioned, and be overstimulated, and kids might laugh at him, or he might be repeating things over and over again, and people might say, "Oh, he's getting on my nerves," or he might. I would remember sitting down with him with homework and try to help him study and everything, because I felt like if he became a scholar, then maybe this would make up, for everything. But he would forget everything in that moment that I was teaching him after 6 hours of studying, maybe, and he'd forget everything. And that had to do with working memory, which so many children with autism are experiencing, including myself, neurodiversity,
Yeah.
working memory. And so I was like, if I couldn't fix him, I was going to shield him and protect him and be his warrior out into this world, and I was going to go fight the fight.
Mm,
Well, guess what? That energy was dimming my light. Why? Because I never thought I was enough.
mm,
I was never enough. I could never be enough to fix him. I could never be enough to protect him. And
mm,
so, not being enough was just clouding, was this water I swam in.
mm, mm.
But guess what?
Just 1 second though.
Hmm.
If there's a mom listening,
Yeah.
sure that's an experience that they might have. What can you say to them? Because that's so poignant right there, right? This internalizing, like I'm not enough to fix my son. What can you say to parents right now?
All right, let's sit in that energy of not being enough. Is that an expansive energy or contracted energy?
It's contracted.
Uh-huh. So what are you projecting on your child? With all the love in your heart, you're thinking, but what is being projected on your child? Not being enough. And guess what? My son was going down that dark road of feeling and swimming in that soup of not being enough until he, at some point in his teenage years, developed psychosis, was diagnosed with psychosis. And that was a very tough time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what shifted? What changed? Because right now, when we started, right, you said you described your life right now. You described your son's life right now. What was that pivotal moment that marked the shift for you?
I remember one time we were driving in the car, and my son was having a grand meltdown.
Mm,
And a lot of you parents of autism know that, meltdowns can be uh, really incredible because their nervous system is triggered into overwhelm. And so he was having a grand meltdown, and I was like about to have mine. I mean, I was like, oh my goodness, I couldn't take it anymore. And I felt like stopping the car, locking all the doors and windows, and leaving him in there and walking away as quickly as I could.
Let's just stop there for a minute because for a mom to reach a point to want to do that, what was going on for you?
I was out of my mind. I was completely disconnected from my wellness and well-being, out of my integrity. That's what was going on. Overwhelmed.
You were overwhelmed.
Yeah. And at that point, I started to say to myself a prayer. It was called the Ho'onoponono prayer. I heard it before. I heard legend, it's legendary.
Mhm.
And a therapist who was Hawaiian used this very prayer to heal the whole behavioral wellness wing of a hospital. Yeah,
Wow.
by saying this prayer without visiting a single patient. And this prayer goes like this. It goes, sorry, please forgive me. I love you. Thank you.
Mm,
Sorry, please forgive me. I love you. Thank you.
mm,
And I kept saying that over and over again. And and in seconds, in minutes, seconds, whatever, I don't know. All of a sudden, I started to calm.
mm,
But that's not even the most important thing. I looked over and saw my son and he started to calm. And everything became very peaceful in that car.
mm,
And time seemed to stand still in that moment.
mm,
Yeah,
mm,
it did. And at that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, that was just incredible. For the first time, I realized that I am enough. I am enough in my authentic self.
yeah.
When I step into my integrity, that's who I was in truth. This is called co-regulation, by the way. And co-regulation is when you're able to align with those healing frequencies that your nervous system needs in order to go into that mode of rest and digest, they call it. That calm and peaceful mode.
Mm,
And when you align with that, when you co-regulate with someone, they resonate with that alignment, and they also move into that mode where they are triggered into the rest and digest mode,
mm,
their nervous system.
So you're saying when your nervous system calms down, the other person's nervous system can calm down too? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
No. That's powerful.
Oh my God. I didn't realize just by being who I am, just by being enough, just by being my authentic self. That's what my child needed. He didn't need a knight in shining armor to go fight his wars. He didn't need somebody to tell him to stop being his authentic self just so that they can fit in. He needed to be his authentic self as well.
Mm,
And for me to open up that field of resonance,
mm.
yes, with him. And that's what happened at that moment.
Wow. Wow. That's so powerful, right?
Whew.
The simplicity. Like a quick story. You've shared the story, the prayer before. This, I think it was last week. I was having trouble sleeping. I would get up in the middle of the night, and I found myself saying that, the prayer that you talked about, and it really did work. I
Yeah,
was able to calm down and fall back to sleep. So it sounds like it's a really incredibly powerful prayer.
yes, absolutely. Not because it's magic, but because it aligns with your truth that's already within you. You were created that way.
Mm, mm,
That's how we were created
mm,
in love, in peace, in wellness, and well being.
mm, mm. So the prayer returns you to your frequency, the original.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. Wow. Okay. Whew. All right. Then what happened?
And so I began to really kind of shift and say, my son, let me kind of shift how I see him. Okay. Those things I thought were deficits, let me look at him a different way. My son is a person of few words, by the way. He doesn't say a lot. And what I used to think was that he had an inability to connect with people and to engage and conversate, and that was a deficit, okay, of social engagement. But I began to watch him from a different lens, walk into a room and experience his energy just filling up that room.
Mm,
And as he goes into the room and he starts to calibrate and to align and engage with things and people, he will kind of feel you out and decide, is this somebody I want to engage with?
mm,
And this young man, he has always been someone who's had genuine connections with people.
mm,
Not a lot, but the people that he connects with are always genuinely, there's this genuine connection of alignment
mm,
where they feel his truth, his well-being, they feel he's a straight shooter, they feel, his authenticity, and they welcome it because this is what they don't get everywhere. No agenda.
mm. Yeah. So like almost like pure beingness.
Yes. And
Wow.
they know that when they're around him, they are safe
Mm,
because this person really genuinely cares about them and they care about him.
mm,
So he has developed community of people like this. Some are his family, some are friends, some are associates. He it's just, as he goes through life, he gets more and more people that just love him, want to support him.
mm,
And he does the same for them in his way.
Mm.
Might not be in the way that we might.
Mm.
He might call his grandma and say, "Hi, grandma." And then she says, "Hi, how you doing?" He says, "Fine. I just want to see how you're doing. Bye."
Mm.
That might be it. But they know. They know that is heart energy,
Yeah.
pure heart energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Darcel, what would you tell a mom who's worried about their child's ability to connect with others? Because you just shared how your son was able to create the community and the support around himself. What would you tell moms who this is a concern for them?
Okay. Well, I would kind of ask them, are you really concerned with him? Or are you more concerned with you? How he shows up in your mind,
Mm.
you know? Yes.
Mm.
Because a lot of times these kids, they may, I mean, they like to align with who they want to align with, and they might not want to align with some people,
Mm.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes you have to, give that child room, but at the same time, give them opportunity
Mm. Mm.
so that they can decide how they want to align. You don't bring Uncle Fester here and say, give Uncle Fester a hug. This child might not want to hug Uncle Fester. He might not feel that energy of. That man. No, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give that child agency
Mm.
to and then believe in that child's ability to discern
Mm.
what's good for them. Okay. But provide the opportunity,
Mm.
for them to get out there and to connect with others. My
Mm.
son is involved with um, uh, things with programs where he goes and he helps other kids on the autism spectrum learn how to ride a bike.
Mm.
He gets great joy out of that. That he loves that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it sounds like the starting point is shifting the way you see your child, right?
yeah,
And almost like a level of acceptance, like this is who they are, and accepting that, and then providing different opportunities and giving them the choice and agency. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
absolutely. You said it beautifully. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And then sit back and watch because sometimes, you can engage. Um, for example, my son is involved in what we call Camp Gladiator.
Okay.
Okay. And and we tried to get him involved with a gym early on. And he went one time to this loud indoor gym and never went that whole year. So one day we saw something called Camp Gladiator, and he started, and it was an outdoor sort of gym. I mean, workout camp, and community of people, small community of people working outdoors, and having outdoor living. And so I thought, this is a good thing. And I said to him, I said, Brandon, how about Camp Gladiator? What do you think? He said, nope. He
He didn't even give you a chance.
said, nope. Well, I know him a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I circle right back around some time later. I said, see this outdoor thing? You see this on, show him the website. What do you think? How would that be like to just try? Nope. Okay, so one more time around. Hey, Brandon, you like to do this, do run, well, the outdoor thing. Well, why don't you try this? So he said, okay.
Wow.
3 times
Three
a time.
times.
So he tried it. That boy now is like it's a part of his routine. I mean, he three days a week he goes and he works out with weights and I mean he did it all through COVID. He did it all through, he was he is that is a part of his way of life.
Mm,
And I just knew that sometimes my son might have a challenge with transitions, and that's okay. So I might shift back around and start, opening up this way. And hey, how about this? And, you know,
yeah. So you're circling back three times is your way to allow him to transition into the idea. Is that what you're doing?
yeah, hmm,
Oh.
yeah.
Say more about kid transition for kids with autism. Say more
Oh
about.
my goodness. My son and like many other kids on the autism spectrum, they say they have a locomotive body with bicycle brakes.
Mm, what does that mean?
Okay. And that means that sometimes they're going in one direction. And then when you say go zag and they're zigging, boy, that could be very, very challenging. Okay. Because they're in a mode and then now you wanted them to change their mode. It's like, oh my goodness. And I had to learn that. I had to learn that, every no or every time and it's also starting into getting into gear sometimes.
Mm,
Getting into gear, like getting into gear with this was difficult. But once he got into gear, it was like boom, boom, boom. It
okay.
became a part of his routine, and he loves routine.
Mm,
Okay. So it's transitioning in or out of something can be very challenging for somebody who is on the autism spectrum.
mm,
And and parents have to realize that and a lot of times these kids may be moving forward, and all of a sudden you say, "Hey, let's do something else." Or they might be in a store and you say, all right, time to go. And then they might have a meltdown because they have to transition out of moving in that direction.
yeah.
And they get disciplined for something that has to do with their nervous system.
Mm, mm. Wow. So what are
Mm.
tips? Share some tips that could help parents.
Well, I have a young nephew, for example, who is about 6 years old, who's only has been diagnosed with autism. And he's also moving, moving, moving. Oh, he's like boom, moving in his direction like a bull in a china shop sometimes because he is powerful. He's a powerful individual.
Mm,
And then when you want him to stop, it's hard for him to stop and do something else. So I sent my sister these clocks, and these clocks have a timer on it. And then you tell the child, hey, look, in this, it might be on 12, and when it comes to 3,
mm,
we're going to move into this new
mm,
activity. And so it allows them to shift
mm.
that activity.
That is so beautiful, right? That
Mhm.
it's almost like you are enrolling them into this
Yeah.
process. Like, let's do this together. When it
Mhm.
shifts to three, we're going to change. We're going to do something. That's so gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, but
So beautiful.
but because it's counterintuitive. These kids, many kids don't need that. In fact, many kids, if they're not listening and doing what you're expecting, then they get disciplined. And these kids, it's not that they're not trying to, it's just that it's hard for them to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Desel, you've talked a lot about your son. So, part of what I said in the beginning was this was also your awakening.
Yes.
Share more about that. Share more about you being able to connect to your creativity and your intuitive part that you talked about earlier. Tell us a little bit about more about you.
Oh my goodness. Being able to look and shift into that mode because of that co what is it called?
Regulation?
Co-regulation mode. Thank you.
Was it working memory?
Yes, it is. Being in that mode of co-regulation put me in that 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 void between the thoughts,
Mm,
that timelessness.
mm,
And it allowed me to to really be my authentic self and to also realize that, hey, look, I have permission to to connect with that creativity, that intuition that's already within me
mm,
because he's doing it all the time, as I mentioned.
mm,
I
yeah,
I could do that.
yeah.
Um, and I just, well, just going to share the story. Ah, well, okay, with time, I guess not. But I'll just say this, that being able to give myself permission to say, okay, I don't have to show up the way people expect me to. I can connect with that intuitive, creative side as well. And that side allowed me to stop and be enough. And when I'm enough, I'm giving myself grace and compassion so that if things, I don't feel like that need to be everything to everybody.
Mm,
I don't have to get out there and to take care of the unique needs of my son and therefore be the fixer for everybody else because that was my identity.
mhm,
I started moving into what is it that I need?
mm,
What makes me tick?
mm.
And in that place of timelessness, I found that I had more time. I had more time for me. I had more time for my son's unique needs. I had more time for others, but I had more time in a place of not contraction, but expansion.
Mm, mm. That's really beautiful. So, what did you get up to in this place of timelessness?
So I found that hey, I could, I could I could promote and create a field of energy where my son was growing into his highest and best.
Mhm,
And it did not at all negate my ability to grow into my highest and best. And that's how I started to turn my energies toward coaching.
mm.
I knew that I could um, find the time, I could create the time
Yeah.
in a process of supporting my son and my family
Mhm.
because it was coming from a space of expansion instead of contraction.
Mm. I love that. I love that. Share more about your expansion. So you expanded into coaching. Tell us more about that. Tell us what you actually do now.
As I work with, oh, I just love working with parents, moms of children, and helping them shift their mindset.
Mm.
And there actually is more than mindset. It's their consciousness, their energy from fixing their child to embracing their uniqueness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yes, we bend time. We actually bend time.
I love that.
And and through, actually Einstein said it beautifully. What did Einstein say? He said in his concept of relativity, somebody asked him something about what relativity was. And he said, when you sit down with a nice girl for 2 hours, it seems like 2 minutes. But when you sit on a hot stove for 2 minutes, it feels like 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's relativity.
Mm.
But you know what? That's what you do when you bend time. And everything, you open up in your expansion and opportunities and ideas, and you move into a field where the answers come because you're not compressed, you're expanded.
Mm. So that's what you do in your work with parents
Hmm.
of kids with autism. You help them expand time and
Hmm.
expand themselves.
Yes, indeed.
Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
love that. So tell us, what are you up to right now? Because I mean, our time is we're coming to a close. What are the things that you're up to right now?
Well, actually, right now, I have a seminar coming up that
Okay.
I'd like to invite everyone to, and that is Mom Shifting from Overwhelm to Inner Calm While Raising a Child with Autism. It's not actually a seminar, it's a facilitated workshop. So, all of you moms, come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. All
Wow.
right. I want to hear you. We want to talk about it and we want to just share and 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 grow and expand.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. So what are the outcomes? What are they going to get when they come?
Well, they're going to come. When they come, they're going to learn again. So many of us moms are, uh, as I said, we have taken on every that the idea of being the fixer. And so that identity has become so, overwhelming that we fix not only the unique needs of our child and try to adjust to that, but we start fixing everybody else's and start doing everything, and we'd have no time for ourselves. Okay? And so in this workshop, we are going to talk about how to shift your consciousness
Mm.
to put yourself in the center of your universe and therefore have even more time, more energy, more everything to do whatever it is you need to do and want to do.
Wow. That is such a radical paradigm shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
From what we've been socialized
Mm-hmm.
to do. So when is it and how can
Okay.
people find you?
That's June 4th.
Okay.
And that will be 7 o'clock. And
Mhm.
it's going to be a
AM
Zoom
or PM?
PM, 7 o'clock PM. And that's a Wednesday, June 4th.
Mhm.
And it's, should I put the link? Anyway,
I'll put the link underneath this video.
oh, please do. Yeah, put that link there.
Yeah.
And also, they can DM me.
Mhm.
on my email, and that's Darcel dot Spears. No, it's Coach Darcel, Coach Darcel
Okay.
at gmail.com.
Okay. Say that one more time.
Coach Darcel at gmail.com.
Okay. And
Yeah.
where else can they find you?
At Facebook.
What is it
Yes.
for?
Darcel Spears.
SBS.
Yeah.
Oh, Darcel. Oh my goodness. You just have to come back because I know we did an abbreviated version of your story. This is just like the appetizer. I know this just way more than what you've shared. I've learned so much from you. And
Oh.
I hope our listeners have learned so much from Darcel because Darcel is just one of these humans that is, she runs on her own frequency. And you are so delightful to be around. Like your frequency, your energy is so spacious.
Oh,
It's
oh,
so
thank you
spacious.
so much. And thank you so much, Dr. Helen. You and your great work, you promote and sponsor people in such as these women in such a way that you bring out the most incredible greatness that is within within me. I can speak for, for truth and
Mm,
say that you have just um, created such an environment, such a container to allow me to be who I am and to align with my truth.
mm.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. And I received that amplification. That is so beautiful.
Mm.
Desal, what is your last message? What do you want to say? What is your parting message?
My parting message is for you moms of kids with autism, this is a wonderful, beautiful time. You have been blessed with a gift.
Mm,
And this gift, this child who is here not only to, I believe, move us forward into this new world that we're in a heart to heart way, but you have been blessed with bringing him forth and providing that safe zone and container for them to become who they're really meant to be.
mm,
What a blessing.
mm.
What a blessing. What a responsibility.
What a responsibility and blessing.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful because not everybody sees it that way. And
But
we love the
the
reframe.
the beauty of it is that in you are truly being blessed in the process because they're reflecting back to you your greatness, your truth and your light. And so it's just a symbiotic thing. It's a give and take. It's beautiful.
Mm, so beautiful. One more time, tell us about your the program that you're doing on the 4th.
Oh, the fourth. Okay. So,
Remind us again. Remind us again. What are you up to on the 4th?
okay, it's called Mom Shifting from Overwhelm to Inner Calm while raising a child with autism. So come on, moms. Love to have you. Let's talk about it. All right. And we're gonna learn how to bend time.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, well, we'll talk about it.
We'll talk
Yeah.
about it. And they can find you. Tell us your email again.
Okay, Coach Darcel at gmail.com.
Beautiful. And
One
where
and
can they
join.
find you on Facebook?
Uh,
Again?
Darcel Spears. Mhm.
Darcel, thank you so much. Thank you for being on. And I have really, really enjoyed this conversation. I mean, time went so fast. I mean, I'm
Yes,
just
it
looking and I'm like, it's already 1 o'clock. So thank you so much. Thank you so much
Oh,
for
oh, oh, and I'm on Instagram too. Yes.
what's your handle?
Darcel Spears.
Darcel Spears. All right. All right.
Okay.
So thank you everybody for listening and make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any episode. All right. So bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.